Good afternoon, students. This is Professor Henry Young. I hope your first week in this course, Principles of Management, has been rewarding. I realize that some students have experienced some issues, academic frustration when it comes to completing assignments in a timely fashion, completing assignments given the limitations that one might have in terms of time after work, before work, time that has to be devoted to family, and other variables within your lives that might present barriers for completion. So I hope what has happened here in the last week is that you've developed a agenda or a routine, as it were, of how you will study for this course, and more importantly, utilizing the resources that are available to you. So I thank you for your hard work thus far, and I am in complete support of what you are doing as an academic, as a person, as a student here at Victor Valley College. So please reach out if you have any questions or concerns. So there were a couple of mitigating items, or shall I say items that would have mitigated issues, mitigated meaning things that got in the way or of maybe success last week, which was we had some videos that were required, the exercise videos that were required in the course. And initially when I set those videos up, I was not mindful of the time limitation. And so there were quite a few students that had some issues with finishing the exercise videos. So moving forward, I've changed the exercise videos to make sure to give you enough time to complete the videos and answer the questions accordingly. And so I have made some changes there. As we embark upon, or as we can continue in week 2, the announcement that I've placed up in the Canvas basically says, as we continue, please make sure to log into Canvas and McGraw-Hill 4 to 6 times per week to be successful in the course. So this is paramount. This is simple, as simple as you drinking your water as you're supposed to every day. I know there's a certain amount of water that we are supposed to drink as individuals. As simple as you might take naps or get your rest in the evenings. Those things are obviously recipes for success. Those are ingredients that will help you to have a better and more complete picture in your life, right? A more complete plate of items. If I use ingredients, I want to use the reference of food. So in this course, it's very important that you log on to the course at least 4 to 6 times, even if it's just to review. It might even be a situation where, or should I say it might not be a situation where you're actually doing work, but you're just staying abreast as to what's required. So the more you engage, read, think, apply, and reflect on the principles of management theories and concepts, you'll become more comfortable with the learning management system and curriculum information to be successful. I also mentioned that this week we will have 2 chapter quizzes. One is timed at 45 minutes and the other is timed at 30 minutes, respectively, to complete. I also will make scoring adjustments to chapter 1 and 2 video assignments based upon time originally allotted. Now keep in mind that if I notice that you were able to complete the assignment with due course and scored anything over a 20 out of 25, I won't make any changes. Like, I'm not one for awarding points just to pad the numbers, and I say that with all due respect and humility, as an instructor. However, if I do notice that I did get a couple of emails that you were unable to do well on the first 2 chapter videos, it might have been because of the time constraints. And so in that regard, I'll go back and I'll make subjective changes based upon how much work you did that I was able to review and evaluate. So this is not a situation necessarily where you'll get the full 25 points, right? Because I know inherently there were some students that were able to do the chapter assignments with no problem. That is the exercise and videos. And so I take that into account. I say, well, if Mary was able to complete the assignment within the 2 minutes, then John should have been able to complete at least half of the assignments within the time allotted. But as I mentioned, for that, in that particular case, all exercise video assignments I will extend the time in the upcoming weeks. So this week I will grade discussion boards to ensure students can view their progress on these assignments. And you may notice already that the students that are still remaining in the course, I went ahead and graded the discussion boards using the rubric. So in this case, last week, there was 10 points possible for the discussion board, and the rubric reflected that. So now in week 2, the points possible for the discussion board are actually 20 points because there's 2 questions. So in that context, all I'm going to do is double up on my assessment of your answering of the 2 questions. And then, of course, I will then make an adjustment to the rubric accordingly. So I didn't make any comments regarding the discussions. If you received a grade that was over a 7 out of 10, this means that you covered most of, or not of all, if not all, most of the components that were required. Anything less than a 6 out of 10, I think in most cases this was situations where the students were unable to complete a peer review post. So make sure to do your peer review post as required. Again, as managers, I felt that everyone completed the discussion board using, as I mentioned, complete sentences, a noun, a verb, and a complete thought. But also keep in mind that as a manager within our world today, you can use a program called Grammarly if you really want to hone in on the grammar component of your writings. If you may be unsure in some cases, as I was with some of my items when I was going through my online program, I mean, to be honest, I didn't eat, sleep, and drink grammar, But at any rate, there's a program out there that will help you to get better at that, and it can give you some structural ways to be successful there. Bear with me. Okay, thank you for your patience. And then I also say, please make sure to plan ahead to complete assignments during the July 4th holiday weekend. So you don't want to wait until, if you can, you want to push the pace of your study routine this week. So within modules, you'll notice that our week 2 is up. And keep in mind, this is really similar to what you've seen already in week 1. I have duplicated the reading list for you again here. You'll notice when you look at the reading list that there was one item that I did in fact change, that in week 2 I incorporated chapter quizzes. In this case, I only had 1 chapter quiz for week 1. So here we have 2 chapter quizzes. And our discussion board this week is on systems theory. Okay, that is and constructive conflict. So chapter 3 will discuss in large part the aspects of conflict within corporations. That is, situations where there are competing priorities within any firm. And so in order to bring about success, it's important that in a lot of cases, and as the theoretical book or this theoretical chapter is indicating, that it's important that managers foresee conflicts before they occur. So in our reading, getting along just along the lines of systems theory, and if you read the appendix in chapter 1, this is going to highlight some specific information that I'm looking for in terms of systems theory. Okay? And again, that's in the appendix of chapter 1. And so you say, well, Professor Young, maybe you might ask the question, why are we going back to chapter 1? Well, keep in mind that the things that you've learned in chapter 1 and 2, they are resonant in your memory, but they're not permanent, right? Because you've read them one time, you've looked at them, you've answered some questions regarding it, but nothing is really sticking yet. And I say that with academic respect, meaning I shouldn't say nothing, but the management theoretical constructs, these variables, these modelistic theories that we've used, you have regurgitated them in terms of just saying, I get that, and placing them in maybe some succinct order. But literally using them, you haven't done that yet, right? Because as a student, you're in training as a manager. So as you read the appendix in chapter 1, it talks about the evolution of management. And it says, for thousands of years, managers have wrestled with the same issues and problems confronting executives today. Around 1100 BC, the Chinese practiced the 4 management functions, and we've talked about these already: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Between 400 BC and 350 BC, the Greeks recognized management as a separate art and advocated a scientific approach to work. Furthermore, Romans decentralized the management of their vast empire before the birth of Christ during medieval times. The Venetians standardized production through the use of assembly lines, building warehouses, and using an inventory system to monitor their contents. Wow. So the evolution of management goes back thousands of years, right? Thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. If we talk about around 1100 BC. So with that in mind, of course, things have changed. And so this systems theory, as I read that beginning of the appendix on page 32, it talks about the various approaches to management. The classical approach, the administrative management approach, the human relationship approach, and the bureaucracy approach. And then added to that is this new, what they call contemporary approaches. And contemporary approaches to management include quantitative management, that's the study of numbers, organizational behavior, systems theory, and the contingency perspective. The contemporary approaches have developed at various times since World War II, and they continue to represent the cornerstone of modern management thought. So with that in mind, we are modern managers. Times have changed from 1100 BCE, moreover, to now the year 2021. Resources, our ability to obtain resources, our understanding of human behavior, our political systems as it aligns in particular with the United States and or America. So all of these things have shaped, or in essence have something to do, have impacted the way managers conduct their work on a day-to-day basis. So again, this week we'll be talking a little bit about systems theory. I'll be interested to see what your takeaway from this discussion might be. So going back to the modules, again, we're in chapter 3 for this week. 3 and 4. One of the things I want to continuously emphasize is the importance of the weekly student study routine. We talked a little bit about this last week, and I do believe that if, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this presentation, or the beginning, that you are a product of what you eat, right? So if you eat junk food, you're going to have cavities. And if you have cavities, then you're going to have issues with your teeth, and they're going to hurt. Like I love gummy bears, right? But if you eat fruit, if you eat the things that are good for you, then you're technically going to be healthier, is where I'm going with this. But a little candy never hurts. So I would strongly encourage you to go about your study routine, in particular this week, forwarding the things that you're going to do on Friday through Sunday and maybe completing some of those items before the weekend begins. And some of you might say, hey, Professor Young, July 4th is all about fireworks. I can watch them on TV, or I watched them this past week at Spring Valley Lake, or I watched them in Apple Valley on the 4th of July. And so it's not going to impact my ability to get things done. So then as well in chapter, or should I say in week 2, you have a reading component, managerial decision making, you have your PowerPoint, and then you have your exercise videos, as I've mentioned, that I've extended the time. And I was really impressed by the videos that I watched last week in chapter 1 and 2. I mean, those videos really engaged me, or should I say I was engaged to the theory of management by watching these videos. And I hope that you get the same out of that, out of these exercises. There have been some that might criticize the fact that students go into another learning management system. But I tell you what, I don't think I could do that video presentation at all no better. I couldn't even attempt to do that video for student engagement and learning. McGraw-Hill Connect did that perfectly, right? And so that's one of the reasons that I had to use a resource, because they have more dollars as managers to throw at research and development to develop pedagogical content for student development. So then you will have a quiz. You'll notice the quiz is due by July 5th, okay, for chapter 3. And then you have another quiz that's due by July 5th. That's for chapter 4. And then we have our discussion board that is actually due by July the 4th. So I'm going to move that. I'm probably going to move that actually to the very top, because I want students to really recognize, or should I say not to forget, to emphasize the fact that the discussion board is due before the quizzes are. Okay? So in looking at the PowerPoint, just at a couple of slides, again, the business executives is by profession a decision maker. Uncertainty is his opponent. Overcoming it is his mission. So this quote by John McDonald really embodies what we're doing in terms of academic and developing practitioners of management theory. Is developing a palate, a taste for uncertainty, and the fact that it is an opponent. It is something that is an antagonist to the shall I say, it is something that could get in the way of success, right? Uncertainty is an opponent. It's a challenger to decision makers. So overcoming the challenges is our mission. So characteristics of managerial decisions, as you think about this in your lives today, that these characteristics are really embedded within our daily decision making. Like there was risk involved. There's risk involved every day. Of course, there's uncertainty. The Dalai Lama said that if we embody, or no, Dalai Lama didn't say that. This was a actual spiritual leader said that if we embody uncertainty, that it will bring about greater mobility, activity, and alertness in our decision making, compared to if we do not accept uncertainty, it will bring about fear, inactivity, and dysfunction. Right? So uncertainty is that component that is going to always be there. So if we accept that as managers, and we know inherently that someone's going to call in sick, even though in their interview they said, hey, I never miss work. And then that second day of work, they call in sick. So there's risk involved when we hire someone. There's risk involved when we work with a group or for an institution or for a company. There's uncertainty. Now, one of the things that we hope that there is a smaller amount of is this lack of structure. But inherently, structure is developed, then it's torn down disruptively. It's developed, then it's torn down disruptively, and it's developed. In our society today, we are tearing down the racial and social inequities in our society. We're tearing down those structures, hopefully, to build new diversity, equity, and inclusion pillars so that our society will function better. Maybe more in particular in terms of police reform, right? I'll speak on that in terms of that in that context. And then conflict. So these are things that we know that are going to exist. I mean, even if we talk about our relationships, there's going to be some risk, there's going to be some uncertainty, there's going to be some lack of structure, and there's going to be conflict. So as we look at the lack of structure in particular, we might say that, well, what are the program decisions? These are decisions that are encountered and made before having objectively correct answers and solvable by using simple rules, policies, or numerical computations. And then non-program decisions are new, they're novel, they're complex decisions that have no proven answers. So if we compare, or if we juxtapose these two components in terms of lack of structure, right? It's going to be those decisions that we encounter that are made beforehand, having objectively correct answers. So building structure provides us greater success in both of these cases. It talks about programmed and non-programmed when we talk about lack of structure. And I'll go back to that again. This risk is an implicit factor. Uncertainty is an implicit factor, meaning it's internal. Lack of structure is explicit. It's the thing that we can evidence-based, that we can see directly. Conflict, that's evidence-based. That's implicit and explicit, meaning implicit meaning internal and explicit meaning the verbal confrontations that might occur. So this lack of structure, when we talk about the explicit aspects of managerial decision making, this is why this is emphasized. So programmed versus non-programmed. Uncertainty and risk, and then conflict. So there's going to be some phases that I hope that you will embody in Chapter 3. Think about, that is phase of decision making, identifying and diagnosing the problem. Again, as a manager, you will have to do this. Generating alternative solutions, right? So if we have someone that's called in sick twice in the first quarter of working for our business, we need to generate some alternative solutions, knowing that employee A is going to be someone who calls out. So we probably should hire employee B, or make sure we have some contingency plan for if that person calls out. Of course, the contingency plan would be to maybe, go in another direction in terms of that employee. Evaluating alternatives, right? You're going to do that. Making the choice, implementing the decision, and evaluating the decision. Okay, so these are, I will call these fundamental tenets of the chapter. However, there's much more included. And so spend some time within Canvas and as well within the learning management system to grow, okay, and to develop as a student. So the last couple of seconds, I'm going to go ahead and I like to hold these items no longer than 25 minutes. I'm going to go into our section. And as I mentioned in my announcement last week, make sure that don't just use the Canvas due dates as the go, no-go action driver for you. You also want to make sure you come over and take a look at your McGraw-Hill Connect and you'll be able to see the actual dates as they are encumbered here. And sometimes I will open up, like today I'm going to open up chapter 5. Even though I know you're not actively working on chapter 5, I'll open up that reading just for the sake of argument. And keep in mind, even though it says that the chapter 5 is due by 7/12, I mean, that's a reading item. Okay, but we're going to open that up. And again, that's just so that the students can begin maybe to do research. But inherently this week, you have the reading, you have our Learn Smart activity item, our exercise video, and then you have a quiz. Then you have chapter 4, reading. You have the Learn Smart exercise video, and then the quiz. Okay? And on average, students on average are doing about an 80% in the course right now. Let's see, on the first item there, the Learn Smarts, everybody's doing well on that. The chapter video for chapter 2, not everybody completed that. Only 2 of the 12 students actually completed the chapter 2 assignment or exercise video. The Learn Smart chapter 1, everybody's doing very well on those. 10 of the 12 students did the exercise video for chapter 1. On its face, everybody completed the orientation. And then chapter 1 quiz, the average on that was an 80%. Okay, well, thank you so much, students, for spending time with me today, listening to my comments for week 2. I wish you the best success, and by all means, email me within the Canvas course if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you, be well, and have a great day.